Hello everybody, and welcome back to a brand new video. Excuse my voice. I currently have COVID, which is absolutely ridiculous. It really sucks. Guys, don't get it. Firstly, it can distort your sense of smell, which makes everything taste weird, and it just really sucks. And you can also lose your sense of smell, which would also really suck. But I might honestly rather have that, because at least I can still eat stuff. But this, it's really hard. You have to eat like really bland food. But anyway, we're not here to talk about being sick with COVID. Today, we're here to talk about two transportation games. But these two transportation games both have something in common. They both have trains in them. And so I've devised 3 categories to see which one is better, or, well, you'll see. The 3 categories are detail/graphics in the game. Then there's overall diversity in the amount of trains. And lastly is which one is the most fun? Or are they both fun? Let's get right into it. Alright, first, let's start with detail/graphics. Both of these games have very detailed worlds. Both of the worlds are actually quite pretty. They have a very different feel, though. Transport Fever 2 tries to take history and put it into a transportation game. Now, this is all well and great, except that it is really hard to make a world that transforms from a very olden days world and then actually makes it then go from feeling like that accurately to feeling like a modern day world. This is not easy. And then to be able to replicate that and have it also look good and have it run decently. Now, I can't say it does any of this well, but it tries. And for that reason, I think it's a really good game. But I don't really feel like they did a great job replicating olden days. I mean, they just weren't able to change the towns enough to make it feel like 1850s. It mostly just felt like, let's say, the 1900s in Europe. So, it really wasn't exactly what I would say accurate to 1850. And, it was like that for basically all the way up until basically the 2000s. So the game has some good detail, but in terms of trains, well, it does not do the trains super well. It has basically no detail on the interiors, as you're probably seeing from the clips, and it just really doesn't really have a lot of detail on the trains. Now, they definitely do look like trains, like real trains. Some of those are real trains, and obviously the newer models look a little bit better. But none of the models have detailed interiors. None of them are really that detailed. But if we look at Railway Empire 2, it actually has pretty detailed interiors with moving levers, moving pieces inside the interior. Like if they accelerate, the levers actually move. It has pretty good smoke textures, and they are pretty much more accurate than Transport Fever 2, since even though it looks really, really cool in Transport Fever 2, obviously it's not very realistic. It's not even really possible to get a train smoking that much, and even if it is, it's probably gonna explode, so it just really, really isn't that accurate. And Railway Empire 2 does a bit of a better job. Now, neither of these games are very realistic, but honestly, I feel like Railway Empire did a better job with their world. Now, They go from 1830s to the beautiful 1910s. So, yeah, it doesn't really have much modern stuff. And while you can continue to progress in the game past that, there's not really anything to unlock after that, whereas Transport Fever 2 goes all the way from 1850, which is not quite as far, but it doesn't really matter. It goes from 1850 up to the, I think 2020, and so that's pretty cool. But obviously it's very hard to change, as I discussed at the very beginning of this section. So, if you're looking for a game that has more modern environment, that's probably the game for you. Modern environment, modern trains. But if you're looking for a game with detailed steam locomotives, and if you're looking for a game with detailed steam locomotives and an older environment, like a history more oriented game, I think that's the game, Railway Empire 2, because Transport Fever 2 just did not do a very good job. So, Railway Empire 2 wins this category, and let's move on to the next. Alright, before we start our next category, I have an honorable mention. Something that Transport Fever definitely wins. Now, I'm not really going to count this as a point, but it might bug some people when buying one or the other game. So you should probably hear this before you actually make any investment decisions, because neither of these games are exactly cheap. I mean, like, obviously there are definitely more expensive games in terms of trains. I'm looking at you, Train Sim World 4. Jesus Christ, I spent like $200 on that game, and I don't even like it that much, so that was kind of dumb. But basically, there is something that I like to call how you experience the train. Now, Rail Empire has done an amazing job with the detail on their trains, and I think the trains are very beautiful. But unfortunately, they don't really give you a free camera to like go and railfan very easily, and they're like just walking around selecting things camera can go down pretty far, but it can't really get right next to the tracks exactly, and so obviously it's kind of hard to get like a good passing shot. And it does have like a third person camera, or like a camera that you select where you ride along with it, and you can like see the front of the train and like zoom fully out. But then like if you wanted to see the side of the train, you can't really do that, because if you like try to move to the side, it basically just goes straight to the side and you look down at the gears, but you can't really, you're just like right next to the gears, and then you go up into the cab, and then you go back through the cars and different things, which is very cool. But you know, unfortunately there's not a great third person view or a good bypassing view, and like that's kind of a thing that I think all train games should have, and I think it's kind of stupid that this one doesn't really have that, but that doesn't really take away from how awesome this game is either way, because I really do mean it when I say that this game is really awesome. It's really fun. So I definitely recommend this game, even without free camera, but Transport Fever 2 does have free camera. But anyway, let's get into our next category, which is diversity in terms of trains. And this one has an unexpected winner. Let's look at it. This actually may not be unexpected for a lot of you people, but because Railway Empire only goes up to 1910, it basically only has one diesel locomotive, which is a F7 locomotive, which is like what you would see as like the Santa Fe F7 or something. So it's obviously an iconic diesel, and it's very cool looking. But, I wish there were like more diesel locomotives, like Amtrak, or like, the SD70 or something else. But of course the game takes place from 1910 up, and that's really sad. It's not that. Plus there's a lot of steam locomotives that were made, after 1910 that were really cool, and I wish they were in the game. But sadly, they are not, and so we have to deal with that. But, the case is a little bit different for Transport Fever 2. Now, before I talk about Transport Fever 2, Railway Empire does have very detailed trains, as I said before. So, part of the way that they are able to detail those is probably because they don't have quite as many. But if we look at Transport Fever 2, their trains are a lot less detailed, and there's really just got a brainless thought gone it, and there really isn't much thought gone into them. But there are quite a lot, and you can have all of them in one game. Like, you could put all, like, from freaking 1850 to 2020, all, even British to Asian to American, all in one save. And it's pretty cool that you can do that. And some of them do definitely look pretty good, but none really as good as in Railway Empire. But, you can get those cool rail fanning shots. So, of course, the winner of this category, you know who it is, Transport Fever 2. But let's move on to our very last category. Which one is more fun? Now, I'm not really talking about the core gameplay elements. You'll have to experiment with those yourself. Personally, I find that Railway Empire is more fun than Transport Fever 2 in terms of core gameplay, only just because Transport Fever 2's campaign is like the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and you're basically supposed to play free game, which is fine with me because I don't even really want to play the campaign. But, I know a lot of people do, and I think it's important that there is some kind of good campaign or career or, thing that is somewhat guided in a way so that, even if you don't plan to do that the most, at least you have the option. And there are a lot of people that like to do that, and so I think Railway Empire 2, it definitely does that part better, because it does have a lot of campaign and career stuff. But, in terms of which one is more fun in terms of, track building and then looking at your trains and, exploring with your trains, well, I think they're both really fun. Transport Fever has a much smaller map, and it's just a randomly generated map with random names, so you could technically get a place, you could technically get a place called, for instance, San Francisco in the middle of the desert. There's not really much you can do about it, and that's kind of stupid. But the game, it has some pretty good track building. It can be a little bit weird sometimes, but it has pretty good track building. Somehow it doesn't have wooden bridges, which is kind of dumb. But it has fun track building, and then exploring with your trains, looking around, riding on your train while you go. That's pretty fun, and you can ride in the coaches and look out, and the world is beautiful, and there's lots of animals running around. In Railway Empire 2, I'm talking about Railway Empire 2, I know, I'm spacing. But then we have Transport Fever 2, which is a little bit of a different story. It's there are animals, but the animals are more of Easter eggs. They're not really thinking of the animals as animals. They're thinking of the animals as very rarely spawning Easter eggs. But the world definitely feels alive. There are lots of cars, lots of stuff, and track building is, it's pretty fun, as I was saying. Railway Empire's track building is more fun in my opinion because it's a little bit easier, but it definitely has a little bit more to it. You can do a little bit more with Railway Empire's track building, I feel to an extent. You could technically do more, I guess, with Transport Fever's track building because you can, there's multiple different types of track, but, It's a very difficult comparison, but I'm gonna have to give this category to both of them. They're both very fun games, but they're meant for different things. If you're feeling like experimenting with lots and lots of different types of terrains and getting really good views of them and like basically rail fanning, I think Transport Fever 2 is the way to go. But if you're planning on like really looking at the details in your train, and like also very honorable mention, the whistles. Like, oh my god, Transport Fever's whistles, horrible, horrid. They are terrible. The worst thing I've ever heard. They like sound like, it's just like this little like weird like basically something that was played on like a synthesizer and then kind of turned into a whistle. Or they don't even really have one good really nice whistle. They have like a lot of them are reused on the same other locomotives. But then Railway Empire 2, they use a few of the same whistles on a few different locomotives, but you know, it doesn't really matter that much because they have a fairly wide variety of different whistles. All of them you can manually like blow, and some of them even have slightly different endings depending, like they'll do one ending and then the other ending, and then like every other time they'll do a certain ending, and like they are like 3-part whistles, like really nicely recorded. Like some of them even have really good echo so you can hear them from ways away. Like I feel like they did pretty well with the whistles. Sadly, neither of these games have steam coming from whistles. I know it sucks, but we will be getting Century of Steam soon, so that'll be cool. Well, nice. So, you know, it's very fun to ride in Railway Empire. So I'm gonna give this to both of them, but really, Railway Empire 2 is more fun. But just for the sake of this, I'm gonna give it to both. So it's gonna be a tie. And yeah, guys, I really hope you enjoyed. I recommend Railway Empire if you're looking for a historical game about steam trains and like building tracks, making steam locomotive lines, and like, you know, just enjoying the beautiful worlds of either Britain or America, and then, you know, experiencing lots of different steam locomotives, because frankly it has a wider steam locomotive library. And then in Transport Fever, if you're looking for a more modern experience of like rail management, but not just rail management, just like that's all you're gonna be doing is just like basically just rail management. It doesn't even matter if steam rail management, it might not even be rail management, just line management. And so for that reason, I know a lot of people are gonna really like it, and in fact I even like it. But it is definitely less tasteful, in my opinion, than Railway Empire. And so, yeah, I'd recommend picking up one or the other game if you're feeling like it. And, yeah, I'll see you in the next one.